Shall we start? We're about to kick off the seminar of this afternoon. We are quite delighted at this very special event of FILMART. I say it's special because it is online this year and we are doing the live streaming across the different locations of the world. Today we are talking about the pandemic, of course, and the influences we have in the cinema and film industry. Today, for this topic, we have two speakers who are experienced in this field. They are Mr. James Lee, New Classic Media Corporation. The other one is the Mr. Zhou Yuan, the EVP of Lemon Picture. For me, I'm Jess Zhang from iMedia Research Group. I'm CEO and the Chief Analyst. Today, at this very key transition point, I think this topic is on top of the concerns for anyone who are thinking about the Chinese film industry. We're doing this live stream, but it's quite interactive. So we also have the live interpretation of English. So if you want to listen to the English simultaneous interpretation, you just switch the channel, you will have the English. So because of the pandemic, a lot of production is paused, even indefinitely, and the physical theaters has been impacted forcefully. So today we are talking about a strategically important topic of this: how to deal with the current situation. Under the current situation, how do we adjust ourselves to fit in this big picture, and what is the marketing investment plan we should make in the next year? What's the focus and priority of the business? How to deal with the pandemic and the after effects of the pandemic. So I'd like to pass the floor first to James Lee from New Classics. And what's your ideas? We'd like to have your takes on this topic. I think we can hear you perfectly. Thanks very much for Jess, and thanks for the invitation by the FILMART. And I think New Classic Media Corporation and as well as Lemon Pictures, we have the same feature. That is, we are producing series and films. So we are quite diversified. Because of the pandemic, the whole industry has been suspended for 3 months almost, or half a year, I should say, 180 days. Just yesterday, it was the Chinese Valentine's Day. It was a record high of the Chinese box office. Yesterday, the box office recorded 520 million RMB. Because of the festival, the Chinese Valentine's Day, so that may be part of the contributive reason. So the 800, the new title, because of the driving force, I think all the performance of those new release created very good performance at the box office. I think in terms of the box office, I think we need to consider there is the constraint that 50% the occupancy rate for all the theaters. That means that you can only sell the tickets for each theater and with actual spaces at the prime time slot. The occupant rate is almost the limit. So thinking about the situation in 2019, at that time, it was without the strain of social distancing. The total revenue was 570 to 580 million But think about yesterday, if we don't have the constraint of social distancing, I think the box office performance will go beyond that of the last year, so that is quite encouraging for the whole industry. Today, we are talking about this topic, how to deal with the pandemic, and what is the implication for Chinese players, and what is the strategy we should take. I'm very delighted to join in today's conversation. I would like to brief you our strategy. We have two strategies and two business lines. First, the TV series that is free from the influences of the pandemic. We have 6 series that are under production. It's a huge amount that haven't been influenced by the pandemic. For the film, we have 2 under production. We have one is the co-production with the Hong Kong stars. The other is the local production and cooperated with Li Huayi. So the release schedule is going to be made, and we will do some marketing promotion. Because of the pandemic, we have been influenced in terms of the starting of the production. Some of the production scheduled to be started as the first half, but postponed to the second half. But we still have some encouraging news that we have an upcoming new production in the second half, and I will let everybody know this news at that time. So for those two, from what we are doing now, it is easy to draw a conclusion that the pandemic haven't influenced our confidence. It's just some postponing issue. It's not a big deal at all. I have been in this industry for over 20 years. I went through the SARS in 2003. So thinking about that experience, I'm trying to evaluate the influences of this pandemic. I think that destruction is harder and wider than our estimation. I think in a short future, in a near future, we cannot get back to normal. Actually, we spent 6 months to get everything back to normal. Yesterday, we had the very encouraging and we have very encouraging box office performance. That is the good. That is the injection of vitality and confidence to the theaters and to every film players. That shows that all the moviegoers are still always willing to go to the movie theater to watch the new release. So that really cheered us up in terms of the production, in terms of the film releasing, in terms of the box office. Today is the very perfect timing. Just after the very sound performance of yesterday, we have to think about whether we can still go in line with our schedule of releasing, production, and distribution, as well as releasing. Personally, I think I'm still quite confident with the recovery of Chinese film industry. You see, China just took a very short time to get rid from the influences of the pandemic. We are still making the films that is in taste, that is catering to the taste of the audiences. So we are quite confident to make the sound production for the market. So this is my opening statement. I want to pass the floor to Mr. Zhou Yuan. I think the pandemic is influencing every aspect of our life, but yesterday the box office performance was quite outstanding and encouraging to everybody involved in this industry. So from layman perspective, I would like to have your takes. Thanks very much for Mr. Zhang, and also I give a credit to Mr. James Lee's sharing previously. I just want to say I agree with Mr. Lee a lot. I believe Chinese industry of film will get back to normal very soon. As the same with the new classics, we cover both TV series and films, the two major business units. From the TV series perspective, primarily, the pandemic haven't influenced the TV series very much. At the beginning of this year, we may got some delay because of the pandemic, and the shooting and the production. But because of the releasing, and most of the releasing goes to the TV channel and the online channel, so the schedule haven't been changed very much, and. Because of the pandemic, most of the people saved their time from entertaining outside of their home. So those kind of the entertaining online, is the performance is over our expectation. So in the summertime, we have two releases that made the record high market revenue. That was 3.2 billion. So we are quite confident to the TV series market, to be honest. We have two projects under production. Next year, it will be released to the viewers and the public. So this is our forecast and the schedule for the TV series. For the film is very much connected with the physical theaters. Yesterday, the market yielded a very encouraging result. The box office amounted to 520 million RMB. So I completely believe that the film market in China is potential enough to cater the future production. In globally speaking, China is the largest film market because of the largest infrastructure. Though we set the cap of 50% occupancy rate, but we still made a record high of the box office. Because of that, I'm quite confident. You see, we have the great potential to grow because of the occupancy rate. And I think the biggest adjustment occurs in the new releases. Starting from September, we will have some new releases from abroad getting to China, and some new releases get launched from various channels, online and offline. From a landmark picture perspective, we will still follow this suit. That means some of our new releases will be launched both online and offline. We are engaging with those online platforms, and it is similar with the methods that taken by the Mulan by Disneyland. Probably in the overseas market, we started with the offline market, but in the mainland China, we may started both from the online and offline. So I think because of the online market developing and the infrastructure expansion in China, that afford the very the huge amount of opportunity for Chinese market. So I'm very confident for the future investment in these aspects. So from the layman perspective, what's our investment plan? So first, I want to make it very clear, we will increase our investment. Second, I want to share with you that it is my delighted experience to share with you, and I want to share with you more about the Chinese latest. At this very timing, especially in this special event, and we can hear two of you who are working at the front line of the film industry. I think you enjoy the voice of power to the situation of the market. Thanks for briefing us the situation of this industry. It is fair to say that your statement just now give confidence to both the players, participants, and the audiences. I think the sound experience, the quality products are all relying on you. In the past 6 months, we are exploring the online and offline various channels. as well as we keep ourselves updated with the operation of both online and offline channels. More importantly, the consumption manner of online and offline entertainment. We have a satellite system. From this system, we get kind of the idea that all the long video has the very sound result and the viewing rate. So generally, from our latest result announcement, you can feel that whatever the pandemic it is or not, the concrete demand by the viewers is still there. I think the audiences has been depressed. The emotion is quite isolated. People is very thirsty to the theater experience, like the social demands as the viewing experiences, the visual experiencing, as well as the shopping experiences. People is very thirsty with the blockbusters. In the past weeks, we have been convinced that all of those demands are still there. So next topic I want to talk with two of you. That is also kind of our concern for the industry. So what's your outlook for the recovery of Chinese film industry? So when we could go back to the normal, how long it will be? So in between, we will compile with the regulation of the government and also some other regulations and rules. So what's your takes on this topic? I want to pass the floor first to Mr. Zhou. In the online perspective, I think Li-Ning is more experienced. But from my humble opinions, I think this year, before the end of this year, I think the market will go back to 70 to 80 of the level of last year. Next year, we will catch up to the level of the pre-pandemic level, so roughly the level of 2019. But it really depends on how it's going with the pandemic and how much new releases we are going to have at that time. Because of the pandemic and induced delay, some of the blockbusters got delayed in the release. So I'm more focusing on the second half of next year, on the schedule of new releases and the blockbusters. So my top concern should be the second half of this year and what it will be. Okay, now Mr. James Lee, I agree with Zhou Yuan. For this topic, I think everybody in this industry have studied this topic. This year, because of the pandemic, I think the TV, the theater rescheduled the new releases. Some the Lunar New Year releasing schedules has been postponed. Because of the recovery of the market, I think by the end of this year, we're going to have 70 to 80 of the last year's level. For the next year, I'm even more optimistic with than Mr. Zhou Yuan. This year, we are being influenced by the global pandemic. The Hollywood's blockbuster under production has been rescheduled to 2021 when the pandemic is completely controlled. That will be the good timing to release the global blockbuster, because I was thinking when we study the schedules of those big players, we can easily draw this conclusion. But China has the very great infrastructure. We have 7 million new screens, and all the Chinese viewers are always ready and is waiting for the new blockbusters. And we have a new 800 and it has the very good quality of the visual entertaining, and all of this war of this war scene. Those kinds of the visual effects can be played out in the theater. It cannot be played out completely on those mobile devices or those home TV. So this year will be the time for the domestic production. Next year, it probably will be the year for the international production. China this year has a couple of big blockbusters that is under production and going to be released next year. And I think some new releases that will going to be released this next summer, I think that will be finished on time. So I think for the timing, there is no problem at all. But I think the most important thing is the reaction of the market. That is a great encouragement for the investors and the production people, because sometimes people may consider the influences of the pandemic that may influence the people, that may compromise people's incentive to go to the cinema. But now this result is very encouraging, and we are going to have the Golden Week, the first week of October. I think that will be a holiday after the first holiday after the pandemic. I think we are going to have a very nice new release at that timing. So I think the national holiday timing will lay a very good foundation for the market of next year. If that time we made a new record like the Chinese Valentine's Day, so I think that will push forward a lot of the production for the first half of next year. So people will believe that the film market has the great potential, and people will expect more for the new releases of this year, of next year. So people will just throw away the worries of the pandemic like this year. So this year, objectively, both the market domestically and internationally has been influenced by the pandemic. But I believe up to the next year, when the pandemic is being completely controlled, I think the box office will go up to a new record high. From yesterday, you can really feel that yesterday some young people, some young cinema goers just release their painting demands. They go to the cinema with their family, with their loved ones, with their friends, and thinking about the holiday we are going to have. That will be another great chance. So by that time, I think that will be a great incentive to the investment of the whole film industry. So we can simply estimate that by 2021, that will be a big year for the for the box office and for the film production. So as the consequence of that, in 2022, we will have a lot of new releases. It's just like the ups and the downs of every businesses. Now we are going to reach the bottom of this curve, so we are going to bounce back to the peak of this curve. So in 2021, that will be a super big year for the whole industry, both in China and abroad. I'm not sure. Probably Mr. Zhang is being delayed because of the signal. Okay. So what is going to happen in next year? So I think for everybody within this industry, probably you don't want to face that. That is in the Lunar New Year. At that great timing, a lot of new releases scheduled at that time slot has been postponed. But of course, we see some new replacement on the online platforms. They just buy the rights and they just offer it free to the public of China. So far, that just attracted the very big traffic to the Xigua video. So that really gained a lot of new viewers and clients through those new the online platforms. So this is a very challenging topic. So as the producers and as the operator of the cinemas, so what's your takes to this kind of the topic? So what's your answer to this question? I want to pose this question to Li-Ning first. Actually, this is the correct question for Zhou Yuan because they just make a new release. From my perspective, generally, I think the entertainment industry is going to be online. So whatever for TV, short video, film, or long video, so whatever the form you take, I think going online will be the future trend. But for offline, for the theaters, the experiencing the theater will going to offer and the social characteristics and the social setting that's offered by the theater, that cannot be replaced by online platforms. So the just 2 weeks, in the just past 2 weeks, the performance and the result we are going to have just to prove this idea. So we have to be very conscious in deciding whether your production and your new launches is going to go through the online or offline. You need to make the right decision before the production and the distribution. So talking about this issue, I want to share with you our new release that goes to online. We made that decision in May and June. At that time, there was new waves of the pandemic in Beijing, so the TV theater, the cinemas has been shut down again. So today, if you look back about it, I'm not sure if this decision is completely correct. So I think the online launching can be supplementary to the offline launching. And many online platforms like the Xigua video is trying to redefining the whole market. Launching one film online is more than attracting new viewers. They are just setting the new subscription methods, like in Disney Plus. The Mulan is going to replace, and the ticket price is $25.99 US. So all of those big blockbusters or those big films, so normally will charge like 12 for members and 24 for non-members. So this is quite something new with the existing charging mechanism. So whatever the producer or whatever the operators, this kind of the changing is trying to create the more possibility to get back the cost and gain the profits. So I'm embracing this new trend. What's the future? I think you need to figure out what fits you best. You have to look at the features, the characteristics, and the nature of your film. So, and thinking about those available options in terms of the launching, in terms of the charging, and figure out the most suitable one for you. So, Li-Ning, what's your idea? I completely agree with Mr. Zhou Yuan. I just participated in an event, and we discussed whether those new launches should go online or offline. I think for this issue, it is just a difference of the method of distribution, and at the very early days when all the film was made by physical film. At that time, when we were distributing, we have copies of those films, and later on we have the hard drives and we have different format. But the online distribution is not something new created by the pandemic. The internet the internet video platform is designed to be the place for the launching of those online films. So in the future, this will be the trend. But for those offline launchings that will be influenced by those online platforms, I think this is just a kind of the difference of the launching method, and the online launching will just attract more people to invest for the film and to join in the film and to watch the film. Whatever the launching method you decided, so whatever the old way you choose or the modern, the very technical methods you decided, like you just launching from the mobile devices. So the key is the good content. So whatever the format of distribution you decided, the key is still the content. When we have the very clear structure and a very clear landscape of the different distribution methods, so you can easily figure out what is the best fit for you. Like probably your film has the very nice picture, very nice sound, and very nice characteristics, and that may be a best match to the online launching. So just because we are suffering from the pandemic now, and we still have to think about the window of opportunities and the postpone of the caused by the pandemics. Some of the films that has been postponed and can only go to online at the end. So whatever the launching method you decided, whatever the online or offline you choose, so the viewer is still holding the only one true principle, that they will go to the good content. Whatever the channel you decided, there are a lot of available channels for launching, like the theaters, physical theaters, or virtual online platform. So those two are not confrontational with each other. So because of the changing of the internet, the distribution methods, we may have the new ways. Probably none of us know that now. None of us can foresee it now. But whatever the methods we are going to take, think about the 100 history of the film. It's always evolving. So if without evolving, the film industry will be die. So I think the creation, innovation are the big feature of the film industry. With the advances of this age, we have to be adaptive for our film industry in the future. So basically, I think the online and offline launches will be boom simultaneously. We'll have a better future. This is my opinion. I come from the traditional theater, but now I embrace the online market. Every day I'm quite open with the online opportunities. I think the internet is changing the lifestyle of everybody. We have to embrace it. I want to add one more point. I just agree with James Lee. The internet itself is still evolving. We just launched a TV series that is 30 at the age of 30. So we at the TikTok, we just have some short videos of the recaps of the TV series, and we have the very high viewing time. So this is something new for us. So that gave us the idea to think about the new position we are going to take, and that also inspiring for us. In China, we have to be very flexible, and we have to be very down to earth, and to be close with the changes of the market and the changes of the behavior of the consumer. Very remarkable. Just now, I posed you this question. That question has been discussed with many other players who are doing the TV theater, the cinemas, and all other aspects of the TV industry. Because of that, I just pose this question to you. But I just think a lot before I posing this, so I'm still not sure whether you're pessimistic or whether you're pessimistic or enthusiastic. I studied the mobile internet for a couple of decades. During this process, we can figure out that because of the mobile internet, the behavior of consumption is changing. This is the trendy issue. No one can stop it. Just now, like one of you mentioned, you may have a very divergence, very divided distribution channels, and two of them are available at the same time, and the producer should decide it and make the right decision. So it is a double-edged sword, like in the shopping online. For some kinds of the products, you're just seeking for the most affordable ones, or you just use it once or twice. You don't care about the quality. So I'm not sure, just to give you a metaphor, that a lot of girls want to buy the shirts and the wares from Taobao. But in the wardrobe of every lady, they have a huge amount of clothes and garments. Some of their clothes just being used for once or twice. So for this kind of the consumption behavior, they really need Taobao because it's very affordable and they don't use those products very often. So they don't need the endurance. I'm not sure, probably technical glitch. We can't hear some of the speakers. So shall we just move forward to the Q&A session just to have a look of the Q&A chat box? There are a lot of questions there, so they are really waiting our answers. I just pick one for the importing film. It's about this topic. So I want to talk about the imported films. I actually imported a couple of films because I'm doing the distribution part. The imported film, I think some of them we just buy the right of distribution from overseas institutions. Previously, it cannot be distributed to Chinese theaters, but now, with the development of the Chinese theaters and the infrastructure, if we just simply rely on the super blockbusters that may be a few each year that cannot meet the total demands of the viewers. So some of the imported films make the very big box office and became the blockbuster in China. So we just say it's the heat of the market now because of the market is suspended. So the important film has been influenced in terms of the scheduling, in terms of the releasing. Some people may just get the source of that right, that they are going to import it in China, but the production haven't been finished abroad, and sometimes the production overseas and domestic China is simultaneously, sometimes it's just before and after with each other. But generally, I think the pandemic doesn't influence the importing film and the releasing of those imported films. So I want to draw your attention to another issue, that the viewers in China give a credit to those non-mainstream, high-quality blockbusters like some Japanese productions and the Green Notebook. For those kind of the importing films, they are not commercial productions, but they are excellent in quality. Like the recent one, we have one 1917. It's kind of the experimental shooting, like the long shooting. The focal point is very innovative because the viewer just give a very big credit to those products. I think the aesthetical standard and the level of China has been improved a lot. So what kind of the genre will be the hit for the Chinese viewers? I think originally you may think the big genre will be the motion films, will be the fiction films that may take a big amount of the Hollywood production. So if you're just importing this kind of importing films, you cannot compete with those Hollywood makes. So, but I think you can figure out some very controversial or someone that really hates the painstaking point or the emotional points of the Chinese viewers and some artisan productions. I think that is kind of the trend. So Chinese viewers are raising their bars for good movies, and they have the aesthetical levels for watching movies in the theater. So I think the pandemic cannot be compromised people's demands for the theater. For the theater productions, I think let's look at some Japanese productions. Some of the Japanese films has very good market shares in China, like Doraemon and the Detective. So a lot of those, even the reproduction films, got a very good result in China. So thinking from those results, we can draw the conclusion that Chinese viewers has the very good taste and a very classical educated taste for the films. So when we are selecting those imported films, don't just only go to the blockbusters, don't just go to the traditional genres. We need to think beyond it and thinking about the individual features and the outstanding characteristics, and you need to figure out and pick up the movies and the imported films with a unique spirit. Thanks very much. I think there are a lot of questions, so shall we just to pick up some questions and answer them briefly, because as the interest of the time, we are about to finish. So just now, Mr. Zhou answered one, so it's my turn to pick one. Just now you're talking about the importing film. So I just talk about the opposite, the exporting of the TV theory. So one question is asking the Chinese productions development in Southeast Asia, because it is kind of my expertise and responsibility. So I want to talk about this issue. The major coverage of our exporting market is Southeast Asia and Eastern Asia. So in specific, there are three kinds of the subgenres. First, the traditional Chinese community at the overseas places like in Hong Kong, in Taiwan. This is one of the major exporting destination because the similarity of the languages and the cultures like Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. The other one is the one that with great potential. They are the ASEAN markets because of the very huge population, 500 million, and the booming media industry there is also kind of the contributive reason, and it sets a lot of some regulations, and the taste is always rising. So apart from the Western films, they are in great demand of the production with the Asian elements, with Asian cultures, and the Chinese classical and the Asian TV series are really the hit for their taste. Whatever the actors and the actresses, the investment and the production levels are appealing for the viewers at those places in the ASEAN city countries. So from the other perspective, starting from this year, we got a very familiar, obvious trend that some TV series made in China is getting popular at the overseas market, because such as at the age of 30, that new TV series gets popular in many Southeast Asian countries, and in also some people is from Japan, South Korea is also very interested in this kind of the TV series. I mean the city and the young TV series. I think the content creation. The content created by China appeared in Japanese market more and more. I think in the future we will take a larger portion of the market share. In the future, we will think clearly about the demands, the demands from those markets. So even now, they are quite marginalized. But in the future, I think we are going to give more priority to them in terms of the choosing of the choosing of the characters and the designing of the whole setting. And our current production is being invested by Chinese fund and using, but shooted by the local stars, actors and actresses of Singapore. So it is very clear that we have the very high possibility to do the co-production in those areas or in the whole Southeast Asian regions. In the FILMART, I want to take this opportunity to make it very clear that this is the future trend. This is the direction we want to make the cooperation. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Today, as the interest of the time, we cannot answer each question that's raised in the chat box. I think most of the question we just touched upon more or less in the previous conversation, but to be honest, we just have very limited time frame for the discussion. The FILMART offered us very good timing to talk about the importing and exporting the TV productions and the entertainment products. I think whatever the methods we take and whatever the general situation we are facing, like the pandemic, as long as we are ready and seize the opportunity of the consumption, seize the opportunity of the changes of the consumption behavior, the demands are always there. The demands will be released sooner or later. So I'm personally very delighted to have the insights of the two experienced players, two veteran players of the film industry. So some of the questions may not be answered directly during the conversation. So follow up. I invite you to have closer attention to the FILMART events and follow closer to the whole industry. Through more conversation and exchanges, we can have better markets. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for the two speakers, and this is the conclusion of today's conversation and seminar. And thanks to everybody who just log in and get online. Thanks for your support and your participation, and I hope to see you in person sooner or later.